guys, I'm going to review The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And before we start this, I just want to say it was perfect. It was so perfect. So basically, this book is the love story of Celia and Marco, who are magicians, and who are both involved in the Night Circus, which is a mysterious circus that arrives in the middle of the night and is only made up of things in the colors of black and white. That rhymed. So, Celia and Marco are basically pitted against each other in some kind of challenge that is never really fully explained. And they aren't supposed to fall in love, but they do. Like you do. Basically, this is the story of the Night Circus and how it came about, and Celia and Marcus and their challenge, which takes place within the Night Circus. A note on the plot: the scope of this story and the story it was telling was very large. The scope was huge, but I was never drowning in it. I wasn't ever feeling like I didn't understand what was going on. Like, there are some books, like the Game of Thrones, which are really, really large, and they've got a lot going on, and the scope is, like, ginormous. And sometimes when you're reading that, you can get lost, and you can forget what's happening, and in those times I have to, like, stop and try to, like, wait a bit, and then go back and start reading again and figure out what's going on. But with this, that didn't happen. I never got lost in the scope of the story, even though it was pretty big. I mean, it's nowhere near Game of Thrones, because the scope of that story is, like, huge. But this was pretty large, and I was never lost. For the romance in this, because it is, you know, according to the back, it is primarily a love story, Celia and Marcus are awesome. And their love story was believable. It was completely believable to me. I believed that they were, like, totally falling in love. You know, they don't actually meet until about the middle of the book, because, basically, it starts the story when they're both chosen for this challenge, and then it shows them growing up, and, you know, the challenge starting, and they've never met each other before the challenge, and through the course of the challenge, they meet each other. So they don't meet each other for a very long time, but through, learning of each other's style of magic, basically, they learn about each other indirectly, and they fall in love, and it never felt like it was suddenly happening and they were suddenly in love for no reason. It felt like there was a reason, and it was a pretty big one. Now for the characters, I really liked that they were all mysterious. I mean, and not that they were all, like, dressed in black and showed up in the middle of the night and no one ever knew anything about them. But they all had secrets, and the reader never knew all of them. They were like real people, basically. And while you learned stuff about the characters as time went on, that it felt like you were actually learning stuff about, like, an actual person, which was cool and awesome and wonderful. The only problem, and, like, the only problem I had with the whole book, is that sometimes the introduction of a character, or a set of characters, or a subplot, or, well, honestly, only one time, the introduction of a subplot threw me off. But that was literally the only thing that was mildly not perfect about this book. And honestly, that's not a really bad thing. Like I said at the beginning, this book is so perfect. It's awesome. Another really big thing that I loved about this book was the writing style. Because there are, like, 2 or 3 really big storylines that are sprinkled throughout the book, and, you know, they seem completely separate when you start each of them, which is why it was so off-putting to go straight into Bailey's storyline, because it seemed completely separate from the rest of what was happening in the book. And then it comes together for this big finale at the end, where all 3 of these storylines are suddenly in the same place at the same time, and it's beautiful. I just love how it brought that together. Also, there are these chapters from your perspective, so basically it's written in the second person, like, you walk into the circus and you see that there is popcorn there. You know, kind of written like that. And those chapters were beautiful. And it really sent a thread through the whole or through the whole book that brought the separate storylines together, even when they weren't together. If that makes any sense. I got this book from the library, as you could probably tell by the thing here and the thing here. But actually, I'm going to buy it as soon as humanly possible because I need it on my shelves. Because it is so good. It's very rare that I get a book from the library and I read it and then I need to buy it. Because at that point I'm like, oh, well, I've read it and I can give it back and then I can go back and get it later. Or like, I can find it again in the future if I need to. But this one I want. In case you hadn't guessed, rating 5 out of 5. It was perfect. I don't know how many times I can say that. It was perfect. And I recommend it to literally everyone. I think everybody should read this book. So, there was that. Like, comment, subscribe, stuff of that nature. Do that. Stuff. Bye.